I send so many people your way. I've had a lot of clients that their lenders had told them no, or for whatever reason they were like partially through the process and then it tanked and we were in escrow and financing had fallen through and you rescued it and we were able to close. And so I just think so highly of you. I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
One thing that always surprises me when I hear from buyers and then we're talking about down payment and they talk to me about money that they have been saving like under the bed in a shoebox, or sometimes I hear fun places, but cash, Benjamins that they have somewhere and they think they can bring them to purchase a house.
Right.
And so I thought it'd be great to hear, so it's not just me telling people you cannot use that cash to buy your whole house, to hear from a lender. When people are talking about the kind of money they can use for a down payment, money is money, but when buying a house there are some rules or limitations.
Right.
So what would you tell a buyer about what can you use and what can you not use for your down payment?
So I would say that if you have a large sum of money, you can't really just go throw that in the bank real fast and then use it. There are some certain circumstances where we might be able to find a way to make that work, but it's definitely not ideal. So it'd be better to, keep that money in a bank account, or a savings account, or, even if you have to keep it in a bank that's separate from yours, if it's a worry of spending or whatever the case may be for having that money outside of a bank account, would be the best. But I wouldn't say that it's a hard no in, depending on the amount and, the circumstances. There are ways that could be worked around to make it happen, but as a general rule, try not to keep cash, because cash is just not an acceptable source of down payment. And so when we're trying to source that money, there's not really a paper trail behind it. So
yeah, it's hard to track, right? So if I had, like, let's say $10,000 cash under my bed, and I really wanted to use it for a down payment, but I could not just bring $10,000 cash, could I do something like give it to my brother and have him gift me this money back? Or how does that work with gift funds?
Technically, no.
No?
So we don't really want
it.
So technically, from like an underwriting standpoint, we don't want to be like really
money
saying that that's what we're doing, because it gets a little sticky with all of that, and then money laundering and stuff like that. That's why we have to verify where the funds come from. But like I said, on a case-by-case scenario, like you could talk to your loan officer and say, hey, what would be the best way to do this? Worst case scenario, you put it in a bank account and it just sits there for a couple months before you can use it.
Exactly, and you just wait until it's legit.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's one thing that people forget, or I forget, because in real estate we want to buy a house and we want to buy it right now. I forget that all of these things about credit and being prepared to be able to get a loan, they're not permanent decisions. So if something is a no right now, that doesn't mean it's a forever no.
Right.
Just sometimes it takes some time, and that can be hard in the minute to take the time, but in the long run, if you have that cash, better to get it in the bank now and start the clock ticking, right? So that you can use it later.
Exactly.
Than to keep it under your bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perfect. How about like a tax refund? Can I use my tax refund for a down payment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
So there are multiple sources that you are allowed to use. So it's not generally, as long as there's a way to paper trail where those monies came from. So like if you sold a car, like we would get the bill of sale and proof that you owned the car. Or if you sold a bunch of gold, or there's a lot of different things I've seen over the years that people use for their down payment. And as long as there's a way to paper trail that money out, and like the tax refund, you would just show a copy of the taxes to show where that money came from. So it's just once, like if you get your taxes and you pull it all out of the bank, and now it's cash, and now you want to put it back in the bank to use it, then that's where it gets sticky, because they don't have any way of knowing that was what that money was.
Absolutely. So if you get your tax refund, leave it in the bank.
Yeah, leave it in
the amount that you want for your down payment, just let it sit there.
Right. Yeah, because when we go to do the transaction, we're going to ask for the last 2 months of bank statements, and if that deposit is on there, we're going to have to start asking questions, and that's where it gets a little sticky.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for clarifying so people don't have to hear it from me. They can hear it from the lending expert.